right, well, I'd like to welcome everyone to our event this evening. This is a great chance for the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences Academic Programs Office to come and talk to our future students and our future parents for this fall semester. I am Susan Sumner. I serve as the Associate Dean and Director of Academic Programs, and I have the world's best job on campus. No one has a better job than I do. I get to work with some amazing individuals on campus and with the students, and it's really a highlight of our summer to get to talk to our families. So I'm glad that we can be a part of this with you and talk to you a little bit about it. There are a couple things I want to be sure that you remember. We really view your educational experience at Virginia Tech as a partnership. We're starting with you now at summer orientation. You're going to be here with classes in the fall semester, and we're going to be with you at commencement. And however many years it takes you to get that diploma, we're going to be here to be a part of that. But it really is a partnership. You're going to work with your advisors, your faculty members, and with the people in the office that I work with. I also know, having had kids go off to college a few years ago, this is a stressful time. For some of you, it's the first student going off. For some, it's your second or third, or maybe last student going, but it's stressful. It's a little bit more stressful now with the COVID and the different issues that are going on campus. And so I have surrounded myself today by a fantastic group of panelists who I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, and hopefully they'll be able to give you a good idea and answer your questions. Many of you have already turned in some great questions, and we're going to go through that. You are able, through the survey, if you go down a little bit down the page from the webinar that you're watching right now, you'll see the survey and you can submit questions. We'll be watching that and try to get to those as we're going through the hour that we're going to spend with you. But I'll ask our panelists now to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about that, and we'll start answering some of your questions. Lisa and Joe, would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Dr. Sumner. It's good to be here this evening. And we both have the double pleasure of having two kids going off to college this year. We have a sophomore who's in the Pamplin College of Business, and we have an incoming freshman just like you guys do. She's going to be in human nutrition, foods, and exercise. Not only are we excited about having our own kids coming to Virginia Tech, I also work in the Office of Academic Programs with Dr. Sumner. My role is fairly new, but I have been in the office for about 8 years, and I'm the Student Development and Engagement Coordinator. So I get to work on a lot of programs that will help your students thrive while they're here at Virginia Tech. I do some social media and communications, some design work, and just engagement opportunities. So I'm excited to meet your students this fall, and we're happy to be here tonight, and just wanted to let you know we're in it with you, and just looking forward to a great fall. This is my husband, Joe.
Yeah, and just again, like not again, but we also went to Virginia Tech a few more than a few years ago. Yeah. And so we've been here for a while. We were gone in Los Angeles for a period of time, but Blacksburg drew us back. And so I'm involved in real estate and pastoring a church downtown, and also part of the Blacksburg Business Incorporation. So we're pretty involved here in this town and school.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. We have a few other Hokie. Well, actually, I think everybody's a Hokie alum actually on the panel tonight. This is great. Scott, why don't you guys take a time and introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Scott Stevens. I live in Fincastle, Virginia. 92 grad, animal science and ag econ. Spent 25 years in management with Southern States, and recently left to work with Farm Credit. I'm a loan officer here in Roanoke, Virginia. My wife is a 92, 93, 94 grad, animal science, and had her master's in ag education. Teaches middle school agri-science here in Botetourt County for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I have an incoming freshman, HNFE, coming in this fall. He's excited and on this call as well. He's not with us, but he's on the call. And my most recent Hokie is to my right here. This is Caitlin, and I want her to introduce herself.
Yeah, sure. So I am a very recent alumni. I graduated in May from the Ag Sciences program, and I'm excited to start my career in ag teaching this fall. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you both for being here. Nicolene, we'll let you introduce yourself next.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sumner. So my name is Nicolene Grieco, and I'm so delighted to be here. I am an advanced instructor with Human Nutrition, Foods, and Exercise. And let's see, I've taught at Virginia Tech for about 15 years now, and I also received my master's degree from HNFE. So I came here and have never left, which happens to a lot of us actually. And I really am very fortunate that I get to teach large enrollment classes. Our HNFE undergraduate program is quite large. We have close to 1,000 students, undergraduate students. And I also have the pleasure of being able to teach hands-on laboratories at HNFE, which are obviously quite different. And all of that being different, of course, as we are now preparing for the fall 2020 semester. And I also do have a son who is going off to college, not here. He's actually going to Rutgers University. So about 8.5 hours away up north. And then I do have a daughter who's a rising senior at Blacksburg High School. So I really do understand kind of, the different lenses and what it feels like as a mom and as faculty and what all of us are feeling and the apprehensions we might be feeling regarding this upcoming fall semester. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Nicolene. Malia.
Hi, I'm Malia Overholt, and I am a recent grad as well, but a little less recent. I graduated in May of 2019 from HNFE, and I am now getting my master's in public administration and policy. I'm a GA in the Office of Academic Programs, and I help TA the FYE course for transfer students and any other little jobs that I can help out with at the academic programs office. And I'm really excited to give a little bit of a student's perspective on the panel today. So thank you.
I thank all of you for being here tonight. I think we're going to have a great time answering questions and doing all of that. All right, well, I'm going to change the view here just a little bit. As I mentioned, we already had quite a few questions that came in, and I'll address some of those, then I'm going to turn it right over to the panel. We did have a question asking us, is it true that we're only offering online courses this semester, this fall semester at Virginia Tech? No, that is not true. There are quite a few hybrid courses and face-to-face courses. We're trying to do what we can for each particular course. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but no, everything is not online. That's not a true statement. Had a question about after students scheduled move-in day, can families walk around campus and see other buildings? And I'm going to say the answer to that is most definitely yes. You're probably asked to be sure you've got your mask on and following good guidance when you're doing that. Encourage you if you can to go in, and if the buildings are open, you can definitely go in and see the classrooms that they're going to be in. And to do that, you definitely could come into Lytton Reeves and see some of the student spaces. But yes, you will be able to walk around campus to look at that and to be a part of that. I think I'm going to stop with those basic questions to start with and get our panel thinking about some different things. But Joe and Lisa, can you talk just a little bit more about your expectations for the fall semester?
Sure. I'm going to answer that in two ways. Expectations, certainly that my students will have everything that they need. I expect them to have access to their instructors, whatever that means for each class. I expect that they'll have, we'll continue to have open communication from the university, which has been, I feel, pretty good so far. I think communication in the university has been very clear and often. So in some ways, those are my expectations for sure. But the other side of that is that I'm also trying to let go of my expectations. I feel like that it's going to be really good and important for us to kind of believe the best about what is ahead for us and for our students and for our kids, and that good things are coming and that they are going to adapt. And they've already proven, it's just amazing resiliency. We've all seen what they had to deal with their senior year and their losses and how they dealt with that so very well. And so I'm also just trying to let go of maybe what I thought things should be like, and actually just trying to let my kids lead the way and follow in their joy, the things that they're excited about and looking forward to, because it is going to look different, but it's going to be great. And they're all still very, very excited about it. So definitely have some expectations, but also letting go of them at the same time. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, just from my perspective and experience, and knowing like kind of Virginia Tech, I mean, I have an expectation just that, you know, one, like the, you know, the health of both my children are going to be are going to be watched carefully, and there's good precautions in place, and then there's going to be good adjustments that are going to be made if needed and so forth. So, you know, that's an expectation I have. And then the other one, you know, yeah, definitely for my daughter, her senior year was very disappointing. You know, she didn't get to play lacrosse her senior year, and it'll be different like as a freshman at Virginia Tech this fall, but I still have the expectation, which for me is very exciting. It's like, you know, I met my wife at college, and I just think like there's strong relationships that are going to be built this first year regardless. And so that's another expectation I have, is just the new friendships that she'll have.
Fantastic, thank you. Nicolene, can you talk just a little bit about your expectation? You're an instructor too in campus, you're gonna have your courses. What are some of your expectations for how your classes might be going this fall semester?
Yes, so goodness, expectations. So I would say just sort of overall in general, flexibility, I think, is absolutely critical. And that we, all of us, whether playing the role of instructor or as a student or as a mother, that we all demonstrate that flexibility and really kind of show each other grace and compassion as we navigate this process together. So I expect, it's interesting, as I'm preparing for my classes for this fall as an instructor, and my classes will be taught in what we call the hybrid modality, which then has an in-person component as well as an online component. And that can be structured in many different ways, but having both in-person and online as a hybrid class. And even as I'm mapping that out and planning for that, I also expect to really be thinking about and be ready to implement sort of at any given moment, maybe let's say my plan B, C, or D, again, with that flexibility in mind, because we don't know exactly what our fall semester will look like and if we may have to change throughout that semester. So I expect that flexibility. I expect very clear and frequent, and I would say very transparent communication that I will be having with my students. That is critically important really at any time for any semester, but I think especially if you're teaching hybrid classes or even exclusively online courses, you want to make sure that your students know that you are indeed accessible to them. You are available for them, you know, even if it cannot be in person, we can be available virtually, and that can take on many different forms. And our students can expect from us that we are accessible to them and that we can communicate with them in various different platforms, even if it is virtual and not in person at all. And I would say I would also expect, as a mother having a student going off to college, that what was mentioned before, that I should be able to have the confidence that that academic institution will do everything possible so that my child can feel safe. And that is, you know, feeling safe physically, mentally, etc., so that really my child has the opportunity to maximize that learning environment. And safety is first and foremost with that. And I will share with you that my student who's going off to college, again, out of state, he also has an underlying medical condition. He has type 1 diabetes. So there's sort of that elevated concern for his health, especially during a pandemic and especially going far away. But I know that we at Virginia Tech are doing everything possible for all of our students, and that also includes our students that have special needs, whether they're health related, etc. And we have SSD office, which is Services for Students with Disabilities. And all of us are, as instructors, also communicate very closely with that office to make sure that we can accommodate every single student in our class, again, whether that is an online modality or hybrid in this case. Yeah.
Nicolene, I'll touch on one thing because we did have a question about that for students that have ADA accommodations and things like that, that in your SSD accommodations, even if the class is hybrid or online, those accommodations, they're matched. We do that. You get extra time on the quizzes. The system allows that to happen. So that is something that continues through. So it's good to hear that you're kind of working on that. Caitlin and Malia, and I'll let Caitlin start first and go to Malia. Your thoughts on how you worked with your advisor and how that might have changed a little bit when we went online, and your expectations of how students can interact with advisors on campus.
Sure. So I think that just overall, when we transitioned to all online courses in the spring, it was very essential that we continue to use email, which was really helpful. I think a lot of the professors and the advisors know that they need to be attentive within that. And so just relying on that, I had several professors and my advisor just be really responsive within that. So yeah, just leaning into that and using that for sure.
Yeah, and going off that, I currently still am a student technically in a master's program. And so I'm trying to navigate as well, figuring out what the best plan of action, I guess, is for my courses, and even how can I get in contact with my advisor. And my advisor within my program is very accessible through Google Calendar, and that's their system. And I can make an appointment anytime I need to. She's very available over email and Zoom. And I also have the privilege to work with a good amount of the advisors in the AP office for CALS. And it's just, it speaks volumes how much effort goes into trying to schedule and plan these different advising sessions to make this transition as easy as possible for the freshmen. Because not only are you all coming into a new school and maybe you've never even seen campus, which is scary, but super exciting. But also you're having to navigate freshman year in a pandemic, which is also kind of scary, but also exciting. So it's very impressive how the advisors throughout Tech's campus have really leaned in and kind of hit the ground running with different platforms to try and make it themselves as accessible as possible to you. So it's really exciting. My tip from this is really lean on your advisor in any question. They're there to help you, and no question is too small or too big or silly or not important. Just ask anything you have, and they really will help you create the best plan of action for your 4 years. So yeah.
Thank you, Malia. And that answered one of our family's questions. They wanted to know if we help guide them through their courses so they can finish in 4 years. And that's one of the assignments that they do in that first year experience course. It is our goal that they finish as easily as they can to do that. But sometimes students take advantage of other experiential learning opportunities, and it might, I'm not going to say ever delay your graduation, but you are taking part in that other experience to do that. And within our plant sciences and our animal sciences department, they are still going to be hiring students this fall. We still have plants that need to be cared for. We still have animals that need to be cared for. So students are still going to be able to do that. And the best way to find out about those opportunities will be with your advisor within those departments. Now, Scott, you mentioned a lot about animal science in your background. So I'm hoping somebody in the family had experience working on campus, maybe that you can talk a little bit about.
A little bit. My wife actually worked at the sheep barns for, I guess, about 3 years. And that was just something that she was really excited with within the Department of Animal Science. Sheep was kind of her forte, and really enjoyed that, and spent a lot of time there, in the lambing barns when the season came up, and just spent a lot of time out there with the staff, and really kind of bridged that, interaction in the classroom to real life work. And it was real good for her to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So personally, I didn't work on campus. Most of my work was in the summertime with internships and whatnot, but my wife certainly enjoyed her time.
Well, you mentioned the word internship. Did you have to find those on your own? Did the department help you? How did the internship work?
It worked hand in hand together. I mean, it was a relationship where the student had to really take the lead, but certainly the departments were there to kind of advise and guide you if you had questions or specific contacts. They were a real good resource. But, you do have to take the initiative as a student to reach out and study those things yourself. But there are opportunities, certainly with the staff to kind of guide you and direct you. So you're not out there alone, in other words.
Great. Joe and Lisa, I know that your sons worked some on campus and done that. Talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, it's been a great experience. I'll add to just on internships while we're thinking about it. A quick plug for the weekly email. As students, you will get a weekly email from our office every Monday. And often that is packed full of scholarship opportunities and information, internships that are open. So read that weekly email and watch out for those. Virginia Tech also has an entire building office of career and professional development dedicated to helping students find internships and jobs in your undergrad or when you're ready to graduate, things like that. And a lot of those things are just, they love to help our students get connected with experience and experiential learning in the form of a job. So, but yeah, just to talk real quickly about our son's experience, he has a great on-campus job, and his experience has been really has helped form him in ways beyond job skills. His boss is really invested in his growth as a person, not just as a student employee. So he helps him with time management and even just thinking about his goal setting and plans for the future, aside from even just the job skills that he needs for his on-campus job. And thinking ahead, you know, as we're all wondering, how can our students feel connected to campus and to one another when most of their classes are online? I would say an on-campus job is a great way to do that. It really will connect them with faculty and staff on campus and other students, whether they're working in dining services or whether they're working at rec sports or in an office like ours. That is a way to connect and engage and do something outside of, you know, their normal day-to-day virtual classes and their experiences there. So I highly recommend, if a student has time for it, an on-campus job. A lot of times their schedules are super flexible because we know that they have classes that they have to work around and things like that. They can get experience in their area of study. Having supervised many student workers over the years in our office, it's just a really neat relationship. They become real good friends. We love to celebrate them when they graduate. So I definitely recommend on-campus jobs, and they can find them with, there's an online platform called Handshake. So they can look at that through career and professional development on their website.
Fantastic. Nicolene, I think as a department, Human Nutrition, Foods, and Exercise has a requirement in their check sheet that students either do undergraduate research or internships. And I'm pretty sure you've actually used some undergrads as teaching assistants maybe in your course. Can you talk about that? Because it is a requirement in the department. So maybe you've been engaged in why it's a requirement, and how do students go about within your department finding out about those opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So absolutely, this is a graduation requirement for our HNFE majors. And students can choose, they need to have 2 credit hours as part of that graduation requirement that they can select among undergraduate research experiences or an internship, or it can be what we call an independent study, which, for example, can take the form of being an undergraduate teaching assistant. So every semester, I typically have anywhere from, let's say, 15 to 25 undergraduate students who will then work with me to help our students as undergraduate TAs. So I train them, and essentially these students have already successfully completed my courses, and they then sign up to be an undergrad TA for one of those courses. And it gives them the opportunity to now be in this peer leadership position and to help their classmates who are now taking the course that they recently finished successfully. And it's a wonderful way for them to have that peer mentoring that is so critically important as part of our education experiences. We all know that students, you know, oftentimes may feel more comfortable asking an upperclassman a course-related question as opposed to maybe even asking the GTA, who's a graduate teaching assistant, or the instructor. Although I always tell my students, I'm always accessible to you and I want you to ask me. Don't ever hesitate to ask me questions. But I do know that they serve that critically important role of connecting with our students, and it gives them an opportunity to essentially visit the course content, to brush up on it, as they then oftentimes use that information to for standardized tests. For example, our registered dietitians or even other standardized tests that they are pursuing after their bachelor's degree. Now, I will say the best way to approach that is to simply ask your course instructors, do you have an opportunity for me to serve as an undergraduate teaching assistant? Or ask if you have a professor who is sharing during lecture about their research program and what they're doing in their research lab, and you find that incredibly fascinating and want to learn more about that, connect with that person by email and ask, would there be an opportunity for me to connect with you virtually so that we can meet each other, and perhaps for me to help in your research lab as an undergraduate research assistant. And so this can take on different forms, but it's really important that you as a student make that initial contact, because we don't know if you're interested in this or not. And again, sometimes students will just approach me and say, hey, I'm interested in research opportunities as an undergraduate student. Do you know of a colleague who's looking for somebody? And then I'll certainly make that connection and help the student. But we really do encourage you to reach out to us and let us know if you're interested in those various opportunities. Experiential learning is critically important because you're really able to hone that sort of professional and pre-professional skill set that is so critically important as part of your academic experience, and it's really then complementing what you're learning in classes academically.
Excellent. Thank you for that great answer, all of you on that. That's really good. I would say we have several questions that have come in and came in before and even now on overall, just these courses are going to be online, or they're going to be hybrid. As a student, maybe I feel like I'm able to learn better visually. How is that going to be accommodated? And I would say that faculty all summer, we've got about 35 faculty across the college, our college alone, looking at how to design their courses and really putting effort into it. And I do know across the sciences, they are doing the same thing. And chemistry, they've purchased several visual types of videos and different things that you're going to be learning from and interacting with, and because it's very unique to them. And chemistry is something that goes across all universities across the country. There's quite a bit actually in chemistry and the biology that they can draw from to do that. And I would say they are really putting that together because they know how critical for our majors those beginning science courses are. We want you to succeed in them. So they've got a vested interest for you to hopefully do well and to come out of that and look at that. Malia, now you've got your schedule and you're ready to go. What about textbooks? How do you get textbooks? How do you get connected with a textbook?
Yeah, great question. So, well, as HNFE, there are some classes where buying the textbook is very beneficial. And I will say your professor will let you know. Most of the time they will say, hey, like this book could be useful in your future classes in undergrad, or maybe even in master's, like anatomy. I bought that book. And some specialty HNFE classes I bought. However, I learned very quickly my first semester, freshman year, when I bought every single book that was on my list, I did not need to do that. And so I rented my textbooks. And for the most part, I rented from Amazon or Chegg. There is a store in Blacksburg that you can also get used textbooks. I highly recommend this because you do not need to buy all of them. And if you take the class and you fall in love with it, then you can buy the rented textbook you have. If you take the class and you're like, I want to change my major, you haven't spent money on this textbook that you will never look at again. Or I tried to sell back my freshman biology textbook that I paid $200 for, and it was $7 in return. So I said, I'm going to keep this on my bookshelf and it will make me look really smart for the rest of my life. But all told, you probably will rent most of your books. I know I rent the majority of mine. Even in my master's program, all my professors are like, you should buy this. It's very helpful. And I rent it before I buy. And if I'm like, yes, this will be helpful, I'll buy it at the end of the semester when I'm done. So that's my tip, but yeah.
Yes, Nicolene?
If I could speak on that as well, Just to reiterate that. So we, of course, love our students to be ready to hit the ground running on day one. But at the same time, in this case, when it comes to buying textbooks, I actually would recommend that you wait until you've at least had your first class. So once, and I would say that most of us, we will publish our what we call the Canvas course sites. So this is your LMS or your learners management system. So that's your online component in every class, regardless of what type of modality your class has. Once you have access to that, and that will typically happen a few days before the fall semester begins, which is, of course, is August 24th. Look around there and see if you find a message, which you'll probably see an announcement or a message letting you know about the textbook and what your instructor recommends. And I always tell my students, please don't rush off and buy, let's say a brand new copy or commit to buying it at all. Renting is perfect. I typically use an ebook that you can just rent for the semester that you don't need to commit to buying. And again, shop around so that you really get the cheapest option that works best for you. And so I would really recommend that you hold off until you've had at least your first communication with your course instructor, that first class, and that Canvas site, and the syllabus, which will probably very clearly spell out to you if you need the textbook, what kind of textbook, and what your purchasing options will be. And that can honestly save you a ton of money.
Agreed. Caitlin, do you have anything else to add to the textbook debate?
I would also just ditto the renting. As the store that Malia mentioned is Book Holders. Very nice. I would definitely use that resource. And as well, like the ebooks, it is really great, especially because a lot of the courses are online. You might prefer the ebook, and that's usually a lot cheaper. So definitely check out all those sources.
Well, Caitlin, while I have you on here, and anybody then can come back and answer this. I know some of the parking stories from Lisa's family, but Caitlin, did you have a parking permit on campus, and how easy was it to get the permit?
So I actually went all 4 years without a permit. I really relied on the bus. Honestly, walking too. Blacksburg is beautiful. So if you do have like on-campus classes, walking is great. I know that probably everybody here is a freshman coming in, so hopefully you'll be on campus. But yeah, walking, biking, parking pass. I survived my 4 years without a parking pass, so it's definitely doable. But yeah.
So you would have saved your dad quite a bit in parking tickets.
This is also true.
And parking tickets too.
Just so you know, the top ticket now for parking without the thing is $175. So we just need to be mindful of that. Lisa, are your children going to get a parking permit, or what are they going to do?
Not if we can help it.
Yeah.
No, it's just funny, everyone has their parking story. Like you said, if you've lived here for 10 minutes, you might have your own parking story. They really don't need it their freshman year. There usually is someone on your hall that has a car and can take you somewhere or whatever. Of course, with our students this year, they're going to be in their rooms a little bit more. They're going to be online a lot more. So they are going to be wanting to venture out. So it's worth considering, but maybe they venture out on their bike and get some exercise and fresh air that way. I did hear today that Parking Services has updated their policy on parking on campus anyway. So it used to be that you could park on campus without a pass after 7 p.m. That's no longer the case. You have to have a pass to park on campus at any time during the day. So that's new. And I guess that affects mostly students that are off campus. So any of you that have older students that are upper class students, that might affect them. But yeah, transportation is really, it's not an issue, but it's also a good life skill that they do have to learn a little bit. They do need to learn how to navigate the bus route, or biking safely, or walking where they need to go.
Malia wants to add a parking story.
Yeah, I think one of the beauties about tech is the parking. It's kind of like a hidden beauty because the tickets are painfully awful. But it's always, everybody has a story. It's like, oh, how many tickets did you get this year? Or like my freshman roommate got on the wrong bus route and went to every apartment complex in all of Blacksburg, and she was trying to go to the math impo. So they're like funny little stories. But I lived on campus for 2 years, and I didn't have a parking pass those 2 years I was on campus, and it was honestly fine. Even if I wanted to get out, I either knew someone who had a car, or Blacksburg downtown is so close to walking to different restaurants or stores. And while that might be a little more limited this year, I'm in Blacksburg now, and everybody has outside seating, and it's beautiful and very safe and spacious. But not having a parking pass your first year is a move. I would not buy one unless you really, really need it.
Thank you all for those great tips. I think we just save families a ton of money, maybe some on the textbooks, but definitely on our parking fees to look at that. A few more general academic questions that families have asked. Several of you have asked about that first year experience course. We're not going to be here in person, going to be online with everything else. We do have an option for students that are not going to be here. We do want that experience still to happen for those students. So all of our faculty that teach a first year experience course are looking at that. Some of our students are choosing to defer and not start maybe till spring semester. And we are looking at how we offer a course in the spring semester for the students. We normally wouldn't do that. But again, it'll be your first semester with us. And so we do have those things going in place to look at that, because that's one of the most important courses for our college to touch students, is in that course. Most, I shouldn't say most, I think all of the biology and chemistry first semester for freshmen kind of labs are going to be online. And I would say, I think the beauty, because biology and chemistry is such a large, across the country discipline, that there are quite a few ready-made online things that they can do. And I would say I've been very impressed with what I've seen out of those two departments on how they're going to handle those labs. And I think they're going to actually be fun. In physics, they're actually going to mail you kits to do some things. I know in a lot of our courses within the College of Ag and Life Sciences, and most of these are upper division lab courses, that they're doing the same thing. You're going to come pick up a kit. Our floral design course, they're going to come at times and get a kit to put together what they're doing outside of being in the classroom. So I think a lot of creativity going into that experience, but I feel really good on what I've seen for those basic science courses that are out there that are going to be happening to do that. Nicolene, you might be able to answer this. I'm going to say generally what my hope would be. Several people have said and asked, will a professor contact you before the first day of class? My expectation is I'm hoping they're going to, but I can't commit that to everybody that they're going to do that. But Nicolene, what are your thoughts on whether that'll happen or not?
So yes, I absolutely think so. I mean, again, to some degree, I'm speaking for myself, but as far as what I know also among my colleagues, and I will say honestly, we try to do that regardless. So this is not something that's unique or brand new for the fall 2020 due to the unusual circumstances that we're all living in, but this is really something that we try to do regardless. And that is, again, once we roll out that Canvas, that online learning community, we typically then start with an announcement that we will send to all of our students coming from that platform that you would then receive even before your first class. And it typically will be a welcome message. You know, we're super excited to see you, whether again, seeing means virtually or in person. And it may share information that you may want to do before even the first class to prepare for that first class. And then also just general content as far as where to find the syllabus and the course schedule. And it may share something about, again, the textbook, when and how to buy that and what your options are there. And I also think that perhaps more so this coming for this fall semester, since many of us are either fully online or have a hybrid modality where we may see you online first, let's say, before we then get to see you in person. And so I think many of us are also working on, as we share this Canvas side with you, which is again, that online component, that we will also share a video to introduce ourselves. This is who I am, and this is what this class is all about, and we can't wait to get started. And then also probably another video where we show you how to navigate this Canvas site. So in other words, this is where announcements are, and these are the modules, and this is what you can expect to find in your modules, and this is how we organize our modules in this particular course, so that we literally walk you through that process in the form of a video and show you how to navigate that site even before we actually officially get started with our first class. So I do think that you can expect a form of communication coming from your instructors even before August 24th.
Fantastic. Lisa, I know, oh, did you have a question on that first? Go ahead.
I was just going to add, I think the back half of that too, and this is something that I'm encouraging my kids to do is, yes, wait for your instructor to reach out, to make contact, to get class going. But even after that happens, I'm encouraging my kids to reach out to their instructors as well, to introduce themselves, to just say hello. We're talking about, student success and them being able to have real relationships, right, with their instructors. How can you do that when it's online? Well, it will come down to actually just reaching out and making that effort. So I'm encouraging my kids to do that type of thing. Just introduce yourself and make that connection. I think sometimes coming from high school, students aren't used to having, a relationship with their instructor or visiting them during office hours or asking questions about things. But that's one of the unique things about college that's really an opportunity for growth and learning. And, research shows that students are more likely to stay in class and do well in a class if they feel that they can approach their instructor. So yes, wait for them to start class and introduce themselves to you, but also reach back out to them to make yourself known and say hi. That's my encouragement.
And I could say, yeah, that's a wonderful, I love that you say that. Ditto for me as far as being a mom and the messages that I share with with my own students, with my children. And also for example, what I do is I have what I call Help Me Get to Know You little survey that I request for my students to fill out. And so I really just have a few quick questions, and it just helps. Keep in mind, it helps your instructor so much. The more they know you, right, in the context of this class, right, and the more they know you as an individual and then collectively as this cohort, as this class, the better we can serve you and the better we can teach our content and really shape our course content to really be delivered for you. Every class that we have, even if I've taught the same class for 10 years, it's different every single time I teach it because my students are different, right? And so we really want to build that unique learning community that really takes place for this fall semester. And that means that we really love to get every single one of our students as much as we can. So please reach out to us and let us get to know you. And that'll really make for a very inclusive and collaborative, and I would say engaging, stimulating learning community that we all hope to have this fall.
Fantastic, thank you. Caitlin and Malia, a couple people missed when we talked about the textbooks, and this is something that we do a weekly email that goes to families as well that you can sign up for, and we can definitely put that in there. They wanted us to go back and repeat the sources for the online books that you talked about. I know you mentioned Book Holders is one of the companies. What were some of the other ones? If you guys wouldn't mind mentioning those again, maybe a little bit slower so people can write those down and take some notes on that.
Yeah. So I've always used Amazon. Amazon actually has a book rental service. You can find the CRN of the book, and typically that's given in your syllabus. If not, most of the time typing the title that's given in the syllabus also works. And then you rent the book and it's free to return. You just drop off it's just like any other Amazon return. At the end of the semester, you get the book for however long the semester is, or Chegg is the other place, Chegg. I'm sure they used to have commercials. I will also say Chegg is also helpful for like outside tutoring things for different courses. I used Chegg as a helpful like tutor site for my organic chemistry class. So Chegg is actually a really useful tool. Just make sure that your professors like the coursework that they do kind of matches up. You have to kind of dig a little bit with that site, but it is helpful for like problem solving issues if you can't get a hold of someone else. You do have to pay for the tutor service, but the book rental is just pretty standard as well. And it's also free returns when or the purchase of the return is included in your rental fee. So those are the two that I used. I think there are more, but I typically found pretty cheap books to rent through those two sites.
Kayla, did you mention anything else? Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Leah covered it beautifully.
Good, good. Every spring semester, we ask the graduating seniors in the college to tell us what they're going to be doing. Typically, we get, that was my daughter, if you heard that ringing, I just declined her. She's going to hate me for that. But we ask them, what are they going to be doing after they graduate? And usually it's somewhere around 55 to 58% tell us that they're going on to professional school. And that's phenomenal. That's the highest percentage of any other college on campus. And that means they're going on to graduate school, vet school, medical school, PT, you name it. And we have a great health services help out of the Career Professional Development Office that works with the students going to all of those different professional groups to help them work on interview skills, to work on their resumes, to put together for that. So there's a lot of assistance that goes with that, especially within animal poultry sciences and dairy science. They work a lot with the students that are going to vet school, and HNFE works a lot with their students on professional development. And there are a lot of student organizations and clubs that bring in speakers, so you get to see that throughout as you're going on with that. And I just mentioned that word club. Caitlin and Malia, there's some concern over how do you get involved normally with a club, but now if you're going to be not in person, how might you get engaged in clubs? Caitlin, can you talk a little bit about how you found the clubs you got involved in while you were at Virginia Tech?
Sure. So I personally wasn't involved in a lot of ag clubs. A lot of my time was spent with the Marching Virginians, and I learned about that through my high school band. And so, but yeah, and then the personal, any ag clubs that I had were honestly from bulletin boards in the hallway, but also those weekly emails were also really, really helpful. If you skim through those, it really is chock full of information. And I think that people are going to be eager on the club side of things to be able to send things out through that weekly email. So really be tuned into that. To read more and learn about all the different opportunities, about how they're going to uniquely offer those clubs in this upcoming year. But yeah.
And I'll chime in a little bit too. Just, you learn a lot in the classroom, but in all honesty, you learn a lot more outside the classroom. And I think the more you're involved with clubs and organizations, you get to know one-on-one a little more individually. The university gets a little bit smaller because you have the college that's, kind of honed down a little bit. Then you have your departments are taken at another level, and then you have your different clubs within the department. So I would encourage all your students, it's going to look different this year, but do any way that you can possible to get them involved, encourage them to get involved, because again, the friendships and professional relationships you make in clubs will continue through the rest of your career. I can tell you today, being out of school for almost 30 years, I can go back to those clubs and professors, and those relationships I made out of class were probably just as important as what you made in class. So that's just something I would like to spin off to the parents, to really encourage your student to be involved.
Thank you, Scott. That's great. Malia, what do you have to add?
Just kind of going off that, I think the biggest eye-opening tip I received when I was touring different colleges and universities before I came to a decision of where I was even going as a freshman 5 years ago, I guess now, was you can always make a large campus feel small. You can't always make a small campus feel large. And I think getting plugged into organizations and clubs and taking your freshman year to try a bunch of things that you might not have originally signed up for is really important to making this large campus feel a little small. And even now, with it being so virtual, you're going to allow yourself to be personal with so many other people outside of class, outside of the facade of being on all the time in student mode. A lot of freshman year is learning the balance between fun and schoolwork. And in high school, it was super easy because once you left high school and went to your sports or clubs or anything you did after school, it was like, okay, I'm done with school. I did my club. I can go home, do a little bit of homework, and go to bed. It was very sectioned, and college isn't always like that. You might have a break from 11 to 2:30, and you're like, wow, I have so much free time now. But if you don't utilize that time, you're going to be staying up way later that night or even the next morning, trying to catch yourself up. So that was kind of a tangent, but also an important tip. Clubs are extremely important to get involved with, and there's going to be a little bit of a change on how you find out about them. But Gobbler Connect, I'll repeat that, Gobbler Connect is just Google that whole, you don't have to think of the URL or anything. And that houses every club tech has. And so you can find CALS specific club, you can find just interest clubs. I was a part of the big event for all 4 years, and I was on the exec board for 2 years and really made a lot of lasting relationships through that, even outside of graduating. I know a lot of my friends got careers through different people they met in big event. So I really encourage you to find something and stick with it. And freshman year is to kind of utilize your time as best as you can, but also try a bunch of new things that you wouldn't normally. So
Fantastic. And I would say that you mentioned Marching Virginians, which is a huge organization and a great piece with that. I would say a lot of our students also get engaged in whether it's the Vichy Rescue Squad or it's the Blacksburg or Christiansburg Rescue Squads. And they do that to fulfill their goals later after they finish. I don't know exactly the parameters those groups are operating under, but I do know that they will be still using students. They'll have to apply like they normally do, and they'll have to go through the social distances and things that they need to do for that. But we have several current students that are members of those squads. So that's still going to continue, and they can still do that. So you might have to dig a little bit more. There might be a few more steps this year to do that, but you are going to be able to do that. Another question that we kind of got was about, well, how do students register for courses? If you're an incoming student right now, we would have put you in a batch schedule already based on what your major is. And then when you sign up for your advising appointment with your advisor, they're going to go through those set of classes with you. And if you've got credit, AP credit or community college credit, those courses will come off your schedule and you'll start looking for other courses. But everybody has a basic schedule put together. And then once you do your advising appointment, you're going to then get further information on the courses that you're taking and looking at that. So everybody's got something, even if you're not sure. If you go look in your Hookie Spa, you can start pulling in your, see what your schedule looks like, and you can actually see your transcript on there to do that. So again, we talked about your textbooks. We talked about you've got your schedule. Lisa, can we talk a little bit about what kind of spaces or what kind of things outside of class will there be there to support the student success? So will there be some places on campus that they're going to be able to go to?
Our hope is that, yes, there will be. If we're talking about physical spaces, I'm sure each building will have its own, make its own decisions. I know that for our main CALS building is Lytton Reeves. That's where a lot of the classes that you'll be taking while you're a student with us is located. We've made the choice to keep our student lounge open. We have two study areas. One is the main student lounge on the first floor. We have another one down at the end of the hall. It's called 1810. We're taking great care to make sure everything is clean and set apart at the proper distance. Our hallways are now set and ready for students to come so that you can have a little change of scenery. If you need to come and plug in our halls or in some of our seating areas, you're welcome to do that. I know other buildings will be open as well. And of course, there's options in the residence halls, and it'll be specific to each hall itself. But we welcome students. We're here for you guys and are eager to see you and to see you using our spaces as you need to. Of course, following the guidelines that we're setting out as a university and committing to as a community to keep everyone safe and healthy and happy.
Thank you. And I do know personally today you worked really hard on some of those spaces in our building to start making it get ready for the students and putting that together. We did have a few questions on computers. I would say the best way to find out for your major on your particular computer, I go to the VT homepage and type in computer requirements, and you can, I think it's the second one that comes down because the first one's always the requirement for engineering. Then you go to the next site and it lists it by major. You click on your major. Almost all of our majors, you can have a PC or a Mac type computer. They give you the guidelines, the suggested that you need to have for that. So I always encourage people just to be sure that they use something they're familiar with. My husband, who's in IT, would say the most important thing is who's going to answer the call at midnight when the computer's not working and they need help on doing that. So have your IT. And I still remember when our daughter went off to college, he got more calls from her friends because she said, "Oh, my dad can help you with that." And I'd be asleep. I was like, "Oh, wait, what's he talking about a computer for?" But know what you're going to do with the computer if something happens along the way to do that. But that site is a great site to go to. Scott, I want to give you a little bit of time to chat. We're coming up on our time to finish. We said we'd finish, but you've been very engaged in the alumni organization for the college, and you're part of the student engagement committee of that particular group. Now, talk about how students get engaged with the alumni group before they're even alums, and what are some of the thoughts that we're having for this fall semester?
Sure. Once a Hokie, always a Hokie. So that's the bridge right there. We try to get you engaged through the Alumni Association and kind of tell you what we're all about. But at student engagement, we certainly, as an alumni, do try to stay engaged with the students and try to give them opportunities to learn and kind of the outside looking in, as far as from a professional side. Some of the programs we have scheduled this fall are looking at some professional development, working on interview processes, how to find internships, how to find jobs, after graduation, and just really trying to connect with the alumni. And that's something that we really do put a lot of time and effort in. I've been on the board for about 15 years now, and certainly it changes over time, but the overall goal is still the same. Once you cross that finish line as a graduate of the CALS, we want you to become involved and be active and be engaged. So that's always the focus. I think moving forward, that's going to always be that way, and certainly we're willing to help bridge that gap any way possible. So.
We typically have an event we call Hokie Hello that starts before the Gobbler Fest. It's on a different day. We are still trying to figure out how to do that. That's an event where we ask all the clubs and organizations in the college to be present, and students can go and see. It's a smaller event than the Gobbler event, Gobbler Fest, that's on the drill field. That's just huge. And some students say it's a little bit overwhelming, but it gives them an opportunity to see what's offered out there and to be a part of that and to do that. And I think that's really good to go in and to look at that. We did have another question come in. I don't know if Caitlin or Amelia, if either one of you did a study abroad opportunity. Those are still going to happen. They have been canceled for the summer and the fall semester for sure. But I would say in the time frame of your students starting with us this fall, that by the time they finish up, they'll have opportunities to go in and do it. And most of those opportunities really are better suited sometimes when you're a junior or a senior, because you really know you're vested in what you're doing. And that's also where we will also see some students go away for the whole semester. And I'm always amazed at our students who pick up and go to China for a semester. I wouldn't have done that when I was their age. I'm just amazed that they do those types of things. Lisa, is there anything else you'd like to add about the semester, or Joe, in your role in the community on advice of things for the families if they come visit, where they might want to go eat, go visit, or do anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of great characteristics about Blacksburg. It's a great small town to be a part of. So I highly encourage that. And I would probably just like to end on two, just sharing what has already been shared about getting involved in clubs and organizations. And it resonates with me because I came from a high school senior class of 28 people. to Virginia Tech, and I did get to be valedictorian though of that senior class, so I'm proud of that. But Virginia Tech, was a big experience for me, and I just want to, as a parent, like encourage you parents to. There's so many opportunities to get involved in clubs, and in the town, there's a lot of activities. There's as part of the downtown Blacksburg business, we have weekly or monthly emails about different events that go on, different student discounts, so just kind of encourage to explore that. There's a lot of wonderful things to do in our area.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to with our students, and we are working hard to create a meaningful semester, meaningful year for our students in our community. So rest assured, we are ready for them.
And I would say that goes for the community that are going to be with us. And we do know we're going to have some families that are going to be all online and not be with us. And that's where, Nicolene and Malia in the office and Lisa with me, we want to connect with our students that aren't going to be with us on campus either. We know that's a huge audience for us, as well as students who defer this year, to we wait a semester, wait a whole year to come, that we plan to send you information. So we want to get the word out to students. Keep checking that VT email. We're going to be sending you information to do that. But I really want to thank my panelists today. This has really been fantastic, great information that you shared. For the families, I will put a little plug in next Tuesday, July 28th from 2:30 to 3:30. We've lined up several of our faculty who are going to come and actually talk about what they're going to be doing in their courses and how they're going to be putting that together. But thank you all for sharing your evening with us. I am going to, if I figure out my technology, I'm going to put up a slide that'll give you some more information on how to contact us later on. But thank you for joining us this evening.